Hello. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's so wonderful to see people from my community wanting to learn more about this subject and bring it into their own lives in whatever capacity that may be for you. I just thank you for being here. And John and I would just like to maybe recap my story a little bit and just piggyback off of each other. For me, I was really excited that these guys were interested in me. I had a stable home. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and I went to La Center High School, great school. I knew I wanted to become a nurse, and when these guys came into my restaurant and they started flirting with me, it made me really excited and feel special. He was talking about the life of the rich and famous. He said, come up and live the life of the rich and famous, and you can drive my Mercedes around and up in Seattle. And so that was pretty neat for me, being 18 from a small town.
I think one of the things we want to talk about is that was what Brianna was feeling, and then kind of what are we seeing on the law enforcement side. So at that time, we recognized that these men were identifying her. They were grooming her. They were listening to her dreams and really kind of turning her dreams and desires, against her in the long run. That was what was drawing her to Seattle by these guys. Hey, I can give you work, instead of making $85, you can make $850, right? And she's an 18-year-old girl now, just turned 18, and was just being drawn by her own dreams to go away. And that's how slick these guys are and how manipulative they are.
I had no idea. I couldn't see the deception behind his charming eyes. I couldn't see, I couldn't hear the manipulation in his smooth words. My phone, I went to Seattle, and my phone died, and I was like, let's go get a charger for my phone. And he said, no, it's okay. I'll just give you one of my phones. He had a few phones. They were those throwaway phones. And he said, when, after a little while, we'll get you an iPhone. And that's when iPhones just came out. So that was, really cool and neat, and I was excited for that.
Right, and so what we see in law enforcement side, again, now we're getting that separation, right? We're drawing away from our family, and now we're not having her use her phone, so nobody can get in touch with her. And if you recall when you guys were 18, right, you're about the smartest person on earth. And so, again, there's that rebellion side where when you're 18, you think you know everything. And again, those emotions played on her. And I'm always drawn when Brianna says in the video about how this guy, took her to the strip clubs and made her feel like, well, if you don't want to do this, then you're really not an adult. And right, when you're 18, what a motivator that is to want to go somewhere, even though you don't really want to go. The last thing you want to be looked at is, well, you're too young. So, again, these guys are really good at what they do.
Yeah, he definitely did make me feel like I was an adult and that I wasn't in high school. He brought me to that strip club and sat me down and coached me through the entire process, being right next to me, right by my side, telling me what to do, what paperwork to fill out, and I felt supported. He said that, he's just there to protect me, and he said it's just dancing. My girlfriend did it. He was making it something normal. He was normalizing it. So, and I obviously couldn't see that where this was going.
Right, and I would guess, and we've talked about this before, that had you told Brianna a month earlier, oh, you're going to be in a strip club in a month, that would have just been mind-blowing. And yet, again, the normalizing it, making it sound like it's just dancing, right? We'll call it dancing. And constantly planting those ideas. Again, the video doesn't go as deep, but one of the comments he made, when the man offered her $1,000 and she came back and told him about it was like, well, what did you think about that? What would you do it? And just keep planting those ideas and making, this is just a normal thing. This is how we're going to make money. This is how we're going to be together. This is how you're going to afford to go to school and live in Seattle.
Yeah. So we were going to go to Arizona for Christmas vacation. It was a week before Christmas, and he said that his cousin's daughter lived in Arizona. And they got me a plane ticket. He said that I couldn't ride on the plane with them because there was no more seats. So they got me a plane ticket to go down to Arizona before they would arrive. And somebody would be there waiting for me, and I would have his phone number so that I could contact him when I got off the plane.
So what was going to happen here, right? Brianna was being sold, right? They were never going to go to Phoenix with her. They just had a great plan, a great way to send an 18-year-old on their way who no longer has contact with her family, whose family can no longer get in contact with her. She's been separated, and now she's going to be going, several states away, and really maybe never to be seen again.
So they wanted to make sure that when my parents reported my car stolen, because I wouldn't, they had no way of getting a hold of me at this point. I didn't have a phone.
As all good parents should.
Right. And so it was coming down to the time that they were able to report me missing and report my car stolen. And so Nick, the pimp, said, "Why don't you return your parents' car and have a friend meet you at your house and then drive you back up here?" And he said, "Don't tell anybody about us because they'll just tell you that we're bad people." And they'll, he really set it up good. He said, "Have you felt uncomfortable at all since you've been up here?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he was like, "Have you felt like you are not safe with me?" And I was like, "No, you make me feel safe. I feel like a friend." And he was like, "Okay, well, they're going to tell you that we're bad people, but, do you think we're bad people?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Then don't let them convince you that we're bad people, because we're not."
So fortunately, these guys had a fear of being caught, and really they stayed up in the Kelso area, and then you kind of heard the story. And really why I ended up with a phone call that night was because Evan's father is a friend of mine, and he had gone to Rotary Club, still involved in Rotary Club, had seen Linda Smith come and make presentations about sex trafficking. And when his son called him that night saying, "Dad, this sounds really weird," he's like, "Oh yeah," and he called me. So I would tell you, I did this extraordinary thing that night. I called Linda. So the reason I want to tell you that is, you couldn't be more ordinary than me, right? It's just, I didn't know what to do. I was kind of like how Steve was mentioning, and we'd already been exposed to trafficking, and we still didn't know what to do. I remember asking all the questions to my friend that called. Well, does she have someone that's a trusted person in her life, a school counselor, a youth group leader, anybody that we can talk to try to get to her? Because at this time, she's driving south, and we have this compressed time frame of when she's going to arrive, and we didn't know what we were going to do. She had just turned 18 3 weeks earlier, right? Had she been a juvenile, it might have been easier. We just put the grab on her and can keep her safe. But now she's an 18-year-old young lady. And so it was really a scary time. And, it was 3 weeks before Christmas, again, a Saturday night. My wife and I had a party coming over at our house that night, and it was so stressful. And, Linda...
Sorry to make that stressful for you.
And it was an experience, and we have a happy ending. We have an amazing young lady here now. She is a nurse now. She has graduated, and yeah.
Thank you.
So I want to encourage you that just any little thing you do, you never know where it's going to lead. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. My parents, it's like my dad, what you were saying, we have to all protect, our children in our community. And it starts with knowing what you're protecting them from. My dad said to me, "I didn't protect you, I didn't do my job." And it was like, well, how are you supposed to protect me from something you don't even know exists? I mean, even for myself, I had no idea that sex trafficking looked like this. I didn't know that it was going to be a guy coming in to my life very casually and planting little seeds in my head. And I'll tell you, if I would have had any sort of background education on this subject, I would have been much quicker to agree with Linda to not go back to Seattle. And ultimately, I'm so thankful for everything that John did that night, and Linda and my friend Evan, and so much for my parents being there for me and having grace, walking in and having my dad tell me, there's nothing in this world that you could do that you couldn't come back home, and this is your home, and forgiving me, in a way, for the choices that I made that, it's, you have shame, but that's why I want to be here today, because I don't want girls to be going through what I went through. I want them to know that this is happening, and I want you to know so that you can protect girls like me and girls like Lacey. Thank you.